from a distance.
Hey everybody, hope all is well with you. Thanks for joining us once again from a distance. It's great to be with you once again this evening. Tonight we're going to have some special visitors, some parishioners here at St. Timothy's to talk to us about adoration, to talk about Adoration Chapel and these kind of things and the real presence, which we'll introduce them here shortly and after the parish news. But first, Monsignor, do you want to say some words of greeting here?
I'd be delighted. Good evening, everyone. And it's a warm week we've just had, but we're very happy to be here with our friends from the parish and to talk to you about something very important about in the life of the parish. They have perpetual adoration here in this church, and it's so beautiful. And it brings so many people together to pray before the Lord, and it's been a special blessing for the parish. And Father has told me many times about how this all began, and it's just a great blessing to have this, that people can come and just spend some time with the Lord. So I hope it might encourage you to find some time in your own parish to just stop in and pay a visit to Jesus and maybe spend a little time with him in prayer. So I think that's what I would say to you at the moment, but welcome aboard.
Great. Thanks, Monsignor. So again, before we get to the adoration topic and the real presence, and as always, we welcome your thoughts or questions, anything you want to talk about. But before we get to those areas, we'll talk a little bit about some parish news here, little updates. So first, we've been gradually updating the sound system in the church. Hopefully you've noticed some improvements the last year or so. That's coming from the capital campaign that we had a few years ago. Again, thank you so much for all of your generosity. It allowed us to have the addition on the school, the new classrooms over there, the church roof, and more. But part of those repairs or capital improvements is the sound system, which we've been gradually tweaking, and now we're going to have a more extensive upgrade here the first week of August. So again, just to be aware of that, we'll have updated speakers and the whole works, updated soundboard in the sound cabinet, make it much more easier to live stream as well as connect more readily in the church basement, updating the system in the church basement as well. So just be a complete overhaul, of course, in a good way, of the sound system in the church. That was expressed as one of your top priorities for the capital campaign when we did the survey, and we are doing that here shortly. So again, just be aware, first week of August, we'll have the full upgrade for the sound system, and hopefully that will help people to pray better, hear better, and all these kind of things. So look for that during that week. The columbarium continues to proceed very well. Hopefully you had a chance to drive by it and see it progress and see the beautiful Pietà statue, as well as the columbarium units. Just a little timeline here. So latest update is the pavers should be finished by Friday. The garden plants should be planted and up and running by July 10th, Saturday, Friday as well, I believe. And the lighting will finish by July 17th. That will light up the columbarium and the crucifix. Landscaping and seating for the whole entire project will be finished hopefully by July 24th. And we'll have tar in that area by August. So obviously the timelines are always a little flexible, but just to kind of give you a general idea. But thanks again so much to Mike Grace for all of his work in leading that project. Please pray for our kids who are being confirmed this Sunday here at St. Timothy's. We'll have the confirmation upcoming at St. Ignatius as well as the First Communion at St. Ignatius next Sunday, a week and a half from today. But this Sunday at St. Timothy's, we'll have half of our confirmandi be confirmed here at St. Timothy's. We actually just had a practice with them a short while ago. So please pray for those who are being confirmed this Sunday here at St. Timothy's. We've had a few problems, unfortunately, very unfortunately, with security and even vandalism here in the church. Very unfortunately, we've had a number of incidences in the last month or so, which sadly means we're going to have to lock the church during the day. I don't want to do that, of course, but just given where we're at with things. And again, you can please pray for those who are doing those things, but we are going to have a little extra security. We are locking the main church during the day as well due to some security incidents and vandalism incidences this past month. We're looking to upgrade security in that way as well. So reminder about the golf tournament as well. The golf tournament for St. Timothy's School is July 26th, upcoming here in just a few weeks. Still looking for teams. And also, if you want to just sponsor a whole, that would be very much appreciated. Again, your great generosity in the past and ongoing what allows us to provide the Catholic education for our students, our families. We've been so blessed by your generosity, and just again, one other way you could help support our kids have that Catholic education available to them. Again, the tournament is on Sunday, July 26th. You can, of course, sign up to play in the tournament, sponsor a whole, or both. So before we invite our guests in here in just a moment, any words, Monsignor?
Yes, pray for good weather for that golf tournament. And Father Meyer's been practicing, and he told me he's going to get a hole-in-one this year. So bring the press corps out if it happens. We'll put that, make it go viral or national. But anyway, it's I think a great way to get people together, and so many of these activities, it shows the vibrancy of the parish and of all the people involved. So we thank you ahead of time for your support and look forward to seeing you at the golf tournament.
Great. All right, so shortly we're going to have Peter and Anna Maria Jude join us. I know, of course, many of you, if not all of you, know who they are. They are parishioners here at St. Timothy's, and they've been really spearheading, organizing the Adoration Chapel here at St. Tim's for many years and giving countless hours of time in that way to organize it, as well as certainly to pray many hours, countless hours themselves. So very grateful to them, and they'll join us here in 1 second. Just to, I'm sure we're all aware, maybe not, but we talk about the Eucharistic Adoration. Of course, what we mean is spending time with the Lord in the Eucharist, and he is present at all times here at St. Timothy's, available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the chapel. And that's thanks to people who are willing to sign up for an hour to be there. We need someone there at all times to make this work, make this happen. So when we're talking about adoration in the chapel, we're talking about spending time in the presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. Of course, as Catholics, we know and we believe that Jesus Christ is really, truly present in that host that's consecrated at Mass. That's truly Christ present there. He's so good. He's so humble. God himself, the one who creates all things, can do all things, create those galaxies that we see, the stars in the sky. He comes to us like he did in Bethlehem as a baby. He comes to us in humility in that host. And so we can spend time with him in that chapel, face to face, heart to heart, seeing him before us. He looks upon us, we look upon him, and we can spend time with him in that way. And whether you're just driving by here at St. Timothy's, and of course there's a chapel at St. Ignatius as well. In non-COVID times, we have adoration available there on Fridays, the first Friday of the month. St. Timothy's, again, 24/7 adoration here. So just so you're aware of what we're talking about, for those who may not know what we're talking about, that's what adoration is. Again, spending time with Christ, truly present sacramentally in the host, in the Eucharist, in that chapel. Such a wonderful way to be with the Lord. We'll talk about that here shortly more extensively. And again, for those who don't know, maybe many of you are aware already, but the chapel is that area as you're entering from the parking lot entrance. You would take a left, immediate left. You would enter the chapel, and you would see the Eucharist on display in what's called a monstrance, that gold ornate object that holds the host in the center, which again is the consecrated host, Jesus Christ, flesh and blood. So that's on the left-hand side as you enter from the chapel, from the parking lot. You go right, you go up the stairs toward the church. Before I invite our guests, any?
No, I think it's good. We're looking forward to seeing our guests this evening. And I think they just arrived, Father, so we would ask them to come in.
Okay, that's great. So I'm going to do what I did last week, which is stand up and be the cameraman, as well as kind of moderate the conversation. And we'll have our guests one visit in the chair here and the other chair more distant. So we have Anna Maria Jude in the camera there. And we also have Peter Jude right over here. So we, of course, welcome them. So, yeah. So with that, I don't know, Anna Maria and Peter, do you want to just share a little bit of the history behind the Adoration Chapel here at St. Timothy's, how it got started? Any stories or thoughts in that way?
Yeah, so first I'd actually like to just start off and say I really do hope Father wins the hole-in-one, because I do think he needs a new car, so anyways, I would say just with St. Timothy's Parish, Eucharistic Adoration probably started back from many years ago when we started showing our respect and adoration for the Eucharist, with Jesus truly present in the Eucharist, with the prayer that we say at the end of Mass. We say, O Sacrament most holy, O Sacrament divine, we give praise in all thanksgiving at every moment thine. And by saying that, I think it showed our parish's love for Christ in the Eucharist. And from that point on, coming forward, I know in the mid 80s, what we were starting to do was look at having perpetual adoration. And so we went around and had to sign up, and we were really close to actually starting it, because at the time we needed 2 parishioners for every hour. There's 168 hours a week that needed to be covered, and we were actually 4 people short, or just shy of actually having perpetual Eucharistic adoration started in, that would have been probably the early 1980s. But even with that, many people did come to the church just to pray in front of the Blessed Sacrament in the tabernacle. So all the people that did sign up, which there was over 300 and some, and the majority of them would actually come during their hours, day and night, to pray to Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament, even though he wasn't exposed in the monstrance. In the early 90s, Father Jutner, who actually came in the late 80s, had an idea about building an adoration chapel dedicated to adoration of Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. And so he raised some money, they built the chapel, and from that point on, we started adoration in November, I think November 20th of 1994, the chapel was actually complete and dedicated by Archbishop Harry Flynn at that time. And we started with one day of adoration on Tuesdays. We would start at 8 o'clock in the morning and then finish at Repose the Blessed Sacrament at 8 at night. And then every first Friday and first Saturday, we would have adoration starting Friday morning through first Saturday morning. And from that point on, we did that for about 4 years. And then on actually February 28th, which was Father McLaughlin's birthday, we actually started perpetual Eucharistic adoration. So it was February 28th, 1998. We kicked off the program. We had all our hours covered, 168 hours covered. And from that point on, we've had Eucharistic adoration. So if you take that from that point to current date, we're looking at almost 22 years of perpetual adoration, where someone has been present there, with Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament. So kind of nice.
It's beautiful. Yeah. One thing that when Peter was talking there, I was recalling when you mentioned Archbishop Flynn. When I came to be the rector of St. Paul's Seminary, Archbishop Flynn was telling me and introducing me to the devout life of everything around the place. But he told me one thing in particular that was close to his heart, and it was perpetual adoration. And I think this archdiocese has the most chapels and all for perpetual adoration in the whole country. He was so proud of that because it had everybody praying, and he would ask that in those prayers they pray in particular for vocations to the priesthood and consecrated life. And he felt, and I feel too, that the success of both of our seminaries was so much due to that opportunity for so many people to be before the Blessed Sacrament and ask God to send laborers for the harvest. And in your parish here, St. Timothy's, we have 3 seminarians currently, and I think there's some others in the pipeline. Father Meyer won't have anything to do; he'll have all these assistants by the time. So, but it's a wonderful, wonderful gift, and I think so much has to do with people praying in that way. So I want to thank all of you for being a part of that, and encourage you to come visit the Lord. And if you can't come for an hour, come for a minute, come for whatever. Just be there, and it becomes part of your life. So I would encourage you to just try that out. Anna Maria, I'm talking too much.
Great.
You may talk more.
That's good. That's good.
Well, give me some of your thoughts on what particular do you find rewarding isn't it, but inspiring about that opportunity to spend some time with the Lord.
Well, I know we all have busy lives, and there's a lot of noise around us, and it is the best excuse to remove yourself from that noise and just go and rest in our Lord's presence. And it gives me so much peace and so much inspiration. Like I can go back and almost be a new person that has another chance to glorify our Lord and build the family and all the things I'm supposed to be doing. I need that grace to continue my vocation. So it's just been a beautiful, beautiful gift for us.
It is, and it's like the disciples on the road to Emmaus. Your heart's burning within you when you're there in the presence of the Lord. And you might be wondering why, but that's it, because he touches you right to the heart. But you need, as you say, take time to rest in the Lord. And at first, people are a little maybe hesitant and they don't know what exactly to do. Well, God doesn't want you to do anything. Just be there with them. It's like just being present to the person who loves you more than anybody else,
Exactly.
and that hopefully you love with your whole heart.
Exactly. And those disciples on the road, they said, remain with them. And that's what we want. We want to be with him. He's there for us.
We had in our seminary, St. Paul Seminary, which your pastor is one of the illustrious in the area, alumni. But when I first came, they were asking for adoration in the morning, and I said, why not? So we started at 6 o'clock in the morning for their holy hour. Now they could make it another time during the day. I didn't make it obligatory, but as long as they made before the Blessed Sacrament, they had the opportunity. But they had the exposition of the Blessed Sacrament from 6 to 7. And we started, and gradually, and the chapel kept filling because that got your day going, and you were not right there present with the Lord. And these men, they're young and they can get up and so on. And I kind of determined, well, I get the permission, I should go to this too. And I got down there. Now I wasn't as fast moving as they were, and but I would go there and I'd sit in the back, and as you say, you just rest in the Lord. And it was a powerful moment. Now it was, and I did that pretty regular. Well, I'm pretty faithful to it. I wouldn't say I got a perfect attendance certificate, but I came close. But when I was there and this was happening, we were a month or two into it, and I don't know whether one day I might have been sick or something, but then 2 or 3 days I wasn't there for the. Well, a certain young seminarian at the time, who's very close to you now, he came up and he said, Father, we haven't seen you in a while. Adoration, is something about it? And I thought, well, can you imagine? So I determined I would not miss after that because I was being called on the carpet. But it was beautiful to see how they took it so seriously, and especially for men who are going to be around God's altar, saying Mass, bringing the sacraments to people, and the heart of it all is the Eucharist. And so that has to be a central part of our lives. So we have to find ways to make that happen and be faithful to it. So I think it's just great. Archbishop Flynn, as I said, he was so proud, and he himself, when I first came, I'll tell this one story, I've told it before, but when I came out to interview to be the rector, and I'd never been to this part of the world, Father Huber picked me up and took me to the Archbishop's. Well, the night before, he was having confirmation with Bishop Dudley and Bishop Pates in the cathedral. Well, I'd studied in Rome, and I'd never been here, but I said, my Lord, look at that cathedral. It's like anything you see in Rome. It was spectacular. You go in, and the church was filled, and the lights were on, and it's just so moving. So then I came over, and the Archbishop came in to visit in the evening, and I was going to stay there with him. So we had a visit afterwards for a little while, and then he told me about in the morning. He said he gets up and he has his holy hour, and then we would have Mass at 6 o'clock, if I didn't mind, he said, for the sisters. And then he put a little signs to where I could get coffee at the time. So I thought, I'm out here to interview to be a director. And I said, could you imagine if I overslept or something? So I thought, well, I'll get down there early enough. So I got down. Well, he was already praying up on his knee there with so I just sat in the back and prayed, and I had my liturgy of the hours there, so I prayed morning prayer, and then he walks out, and you hear him go, and then he comes back in, and he puts a mug of coffee in front of me, and he says, I would say, Monsignor, Jesus never minds if you have coffee when you're you're just speaking with him. And I thought, well, I like this guy, you know what I mean? And so I knew right then and there I was home. With the Lord and with the bishop who certainly knew what was at the heart of it all.
Hmm.
You know, and there's just a lot of inspiring stories too. You know, I think we would have a book in the back of the chapel about prayers answered, and just reading about the healings, you know, for people that might have had cancer, or answering the prayers, or just giving them a calm, you know, on that too, and that. So it's just really nice to read about just different stories like that too. But there's just a lot of blessings from being present in front of the Blessed Sacrament. So
That's great, and we thank you because you people have been so faithful in spearheading this. And I'd be afraid not to go if I run into you. I'd have to kind of go around the church if
God, it is nice. You know, there is one story that to me was kind of inspiring, and you know, you think about Jesus truly present in the Blessed Sacrament, and you know, when Christ told us that this is his body, this is his blood, you have to eat his flesh, you have to drink his blood, there were the 3,000 that left in that. And I think about, you know, all that has happened, you know, here in the chapel and just for our parish. And as you mentioned about the seminarians, you know, currently I think there's 3 seminarians. There's other seminarians or priests that that we have from our parish, you know, probably at least, I'd say almost a half a dozen or close to that are priests right now from here. But there was a friend of mine, and this is going back about 7 years ago, and he wasn't Catholic or he was Christian, but just kind of at a low point in his life. And anyways, he ends up coming to our chapel. He can only bike through town. He couldn't ride a car because he was an alcoholic. He was on drugs, and comes up to our chapel, and he's screaming at God. But he's not inside the chapel, he's outside the chapel. But he's right where Jesus is in the monstrance and kind of screaming at him. And it just so happened that my wife comes up at the time, and he sees her, so he runs up and talks to her, you know, and that. And, you know, it was like it changed his whole life after that point. Not just talking to Anna Maria, but just his presence with Christ. Right. So he told me that just prior to that, he was actually sitting on the railroad tracks. And there was someone that actually came up to him and said, you know, hey, you know, you should just go home. Well, where he came was actually to the chapel, and his mom had just passed away, and he was screaming at God, why did that happen? But anyways, completely turned his life around, gave his life to God, and just you know, was a great friend and just amazing. So, but then he came here, was amazing.
God melts hardened hearts.
Yeah.
You know, and especially as concern for the suffering and the sick, and you know that's what our seminarians, hopefully by their teaching parish program and so on, they get to taste firsthand. Because get out there with your people and see them in their own, how would you say, ambient, and get to know what your role will be as a priest, and it's to be a father and a shepherd, and you don't get that from books. You learn many things, and we study theology, but you have to put it all into action.
Yeah.
And the thing that gives you the grace to do it, it's like the missionaries of charity. They get up every morning at 4:30 and do some work, and then by 5:30 they're in there doing their holy hour before the Blessed Sacrament. Mother Teresa had that was part of it. She said, how can you bring Christ to others if you don't have him in your heart yourself? So she said, the best way to do it is be right there and one-to-one with the Lord, and tell him you love him, and it all works out. So that, and look what she did. She touched the whole world, you know, and just a simple woman who gave her life to God, and she, her how would you say, the motor of it all was the Blessed Sacrament for her. And so she, every day you'd find that woman, even when she was, you know, getting feeble and older, and she was always there. So it was a powerful example, you know.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about, you know, what we do when we're there. I mean, maybe there's people out there that have never been to the chapel, or even those who have been there many times, could always use maybe new ideas or new tips on what to do. Again, so much of it is just, as we talked about, resting in Christ and just letting Him, receiving His love and receiving His peace and His strength and these kind of things, and just being in His presence more than anything. But any thoughts, for those maybe are watching and don't know much about adoration, haven't done it before, or even again those who maybe do it all the time, but can all use a little tip sometime. What do you do when you're there? You for those who do a holy hour, of course, you spend the whole hour there. We're not used to in many ways in our very busy, frenetic society, just having an hour of quiet, much less an hour of quiet in prayer. So, any thoughts for those who, again, I've never done it before, or those again who've done it many times? What do you actually do when you're there? How do you spend that time with the Lord, and what any tips or thoughts in that way?
So I think for those first parishioners that might come and visit our Lord, I think that hour might seem long at first, but then I hear from different people that as time goes by, that hour speeds by. But oftentimes people bring scripture, and that's a perfect place to read the living word, and when something you read, and then when something strikes you, to stop and just let our Lord speak to you, and put yourself in that scripture. So I think other people might read about a saint and ask that saint's intercession. We pray the rosary. We just sit quietly, like we spoke about, and just look at our Lord and listen. We don't always have to do the speaking. He knows what's on our hearts. But some people come and visit, and they pour out their heart. And that's a beautiful thing. You tell our Lord how you feel, and let Him console you. And picture yourself like Saint John, laying your head on his heart. That beloved Saint John that loved Christ so much, and listen to his heartbeat. It's just putting yourself in His presence is so powerful, and the prayer that you intercede for others is so powerful. We've seen that. We've seen the miracle. So it's just a magnificent opportunity to be with your loved one. We spend time with the ones we love. We go and spend time with our Lord and our God.
When we were in grade school, every morning the sister would have us say the morning offering. And it was, "For Jesus, through the Immaculate Heart of Mary, I offer you all my prayers, works, joys, and sufferings of this day." And if you can say that before the Lord in the Blessed Sacrament, how powerful it is, because you're giving Him everything, and asking Him to take your prayer and then make it His, and then somehow extraordinary things happen. So I think that doesn't have to be complicated. As you said, the Word of God comes alive, and St. John's Gospel would be perfect, all about love, and the Word itself, Jesus is right there, and tremendous love. So if you can just do some quiet reading of that scripture, and then just think about it in the presence of the Lord, and He'll give you some novel ideas, or some thoughts that never came your way, and that's the beauty of it all. But it takes a little discipline, and it also takes time. But with all the things we have to do, and how much time we spend doing so many other things, if we could give more to the Lord, we'd be much better for it.
And when you think about the time, itself, again, 1 hour even out of 160, some hours a week is nothing. It's not even 1% of the total hours in that. But it is nice to give that time to Christ. It's like, I always think about this. I hear people say, "Well, God's everywhere. I can pray to Him anywhere," and that's true. You can pray to God wherever you are, and all your work and everything you're doing should be a prayer to God, because you want to offer up everything that you're doing. But I said, it's like, if I call my mom and I'm talking to her on the phone, it's like, all right, that's fine. But if I go visit her,
Right.
I said, I'm there with her. And it doesn't matter if I'm even talking to her, I'm still there in her presence and I'm with her. And just the meaning of that and taking the time to do that, it's appreciated on both sides of that. So
That's so true. And how we know that now, when we're in this virtual world, that, we didn't have, we weren't able for a while to have mass except streaming and so on, which is a beautiful way too, but how it makes you hungry for the Eucharist.
Yes.
And that's why the Lord gave us to be food for the journey, but also to be a foretaste of what will be ours when we're having the communion with God. We're receiving Him into our hearts, and then we have time to pray before Him that way. It's powerful. Father Meyer, this is the first time you've been so quiet. So
There you go.
you have a thought.
Yeah, no, I was going to just reiterate what everyone here has said. It's been a huge blessing for me personally. I know my vocational discernment, spending time and adoration, that was how I was able to hear God's voice in so many ways, calling me to be a priest, and really gave me the grace I needed to say yes, to respond to that more than anything, and trying to lower that resistance to His call and to respond. So, and then throughout seminary and that holy hour, that was a huge blessing. And again, just to be in the presence of Christ and His love, and like we said before, the one who loves us infinitely, and can just truly rest in His presence and His peace. And there's something it's hard to describe, but just being there and being in His presence, it's wonderful. And as a priest, obviously too, certainly it's everything. It nourishes all that we do as a priest, and leads up to the Mass and helps us to understand the gift there and what flows from that, and helps us to serve others. Obviously, I think as Mother Teresa that said, it's the same Christ that's in the host, that's in the poor. So helps us by spending that time in prayer, taking time away from our very busy lives and busy schedule. It actually helps us to love more our families and to love more our friends, our coworkers, and whoever. Helps us to serve others, the poor, certainly. And we can see and recognize Christ's presence because we spent that hour with Him, or that time with Him, because we know what His presence feels like and looks like. We can see it more easily in others and respond with patience and with mercy and with goodness and kindness towards others. So it again, we're all very, very busy in many ways, but taking that time out of our day just to be with the Lord again helps us to love more fruitfully and more actively. So it's such a huge blessing, and it's always inspiring for me as a pastor here too, when I'm in the rectory here or on the deck maybe at times, seeing people coming and going to the chapel, and different hours of the night, and it's just it's obviously a great testament to your faith, all the people here, and it's wonderful. And a parish of our size to have the chapel going 24/7, showing a testament to all of you and the Judes and their organization and leadership and witness and presence and initiation that way. And but yeah, I would just add, it's very inspiring to me when I'm at in the rectory here or driving home in the garage here and seeing someone stop by the chapel, or when I'm praying there myself and I see someone stop by for a few minutes or to spend an hour there or however long there. It's beautiful, obviously. And again, all hours of the night, 3 a.m., seeing someone come in there, and that they have to work the next day, and they're a busy parent of many, many children or whatever it may be, and they're spending time with the Lord, and it's a beautiful thing. So
it's a reminder to us that we're all God's children. And the gospel just this past week, we're invited to be humble and meek and humble. And that's what the Lord shows us in that desire to be there. As Father said earlier, He came as a baby, and then He came in the simple host of bread on the altar. He's there for us. So and that's the way we should approach it. And it's to keep it simple. It doesn't have to be something. Right? The other day, I was thinking we had St. Thomas the Apostle. And Thomas the Apostle, he was a powerful saint, and he gave his life like the other apostles in witness to the Lord. But he doubted when the Lord appeared, and and they were telling him. He said, "Well, unless I put my hand in this," I said, Jesus came to him that way, and the act of faith was the simple expression of a child, my Lord and my God. And that's what we can simply say when we're kneeling there before the Lord, my Lord and my God. What more could we want? And then, as I said, right now we're in a time we need great trust. So we can say, my mother, my confidence, because, oh Jesus, through the Immaculate Heart of Mary. So we have to put it there because these are crazy days and troublesome times. And the world is topsy-turvy, and there's a lot of suffering and a lot of violence and a lot of hatred, even in our own country, and we're experiencing it. So that's something we can bring to the Lord, because He's going to have to help us as it starts with us giving our heart to Him, but He's going to have to find the way to make this all happen. And I think it will be, if what He came for was that we would all be one. He and the Father are one. And the only way that can happen is if we're one with the Lord. And once we can do that, we can touch other people and bring them to be a part of that. Andrew brought Peter to the Lord, and that's how it happened. And that's the witness we give. But if we don't have the Lord in our hearts, and we don't have the feel, well, then we're going to be struggling for words, or we're going to be wondering how we can do it. And He gives you what you need at the time. It's been so often. I'm sure Father can tell you that. All of us priests, at times, you're in a situation, you wonder what you're going to say. But God always has helped us when you're struggling for the right thing to say, because that's what He does. So I think it's a great thing to always keep that simplicity of soul as when we were just little children.
So just to make sure we don't have to lose the opportunity, if someone wants to get involved in adoration or spend more time, I guess, any thoughts from you, Peter and Anna Maria, as far as maybe what the needs are now? If someone wants to commit to an hour, or maybe they can't commit to an hour every week, or just basically how people can get involved with adoration, or how do they respond to that call, perhaps?
Yeah, so there's actually a couple ways. One is if you wanted to stop by the chapel, you can stop there anytime, 24/7. Spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a half hour, and spend time with Christ. And I think over time you will learn to enjoy the peace and the quiet. And I know one thing, even for myself, I think about sometimes the stresses of work and that, and just going to the chapel itself and having that time with Christ kind of gives a calmness. Not that it might take away the problem, but at least there's a calmness in dealing with it, and that's appreciated. But there's a lot of hours that are, a few hours that are open, and so we're always looking for people that would like to commit. And again, it's 1 hour per week, which is 60 minutes out of 10,000 some minutes a week, or 1 hour out of 168 hours, as a commitment.
And you can be good in math.
Yeah, and you can do it with your family. It could be a husband and a wife, and if one can make it and the other one can't, I mean, that's fine. Or do it together, or do it with your family. I know we have a couple hours a week, and some of our children will actually go up and do the holy hour. Or if I can't make it, maybe Anna Maria will do it, or if she can't make it, I'll do the hour. Or sometimes the father can't make it, maybe one of us will share the hour with them. So. But it's so you can do it as a family. It's not just maybe a commitment with one person, but it could be a family that does it, and it's a nice way to spend family time together. I always think about how much time people spend playing video games, Fortnite or whatever it might be, or just even watching Netflix or your Hulu and that, and so when you think about the time that are spent with some of those other forms of media, 1 hour is like nothing, And
I watch the news. I watch Fox News. Well, by the end of the day, my head is spinning.
Yeah.
They're shouting at you and so on. I just need a little quiet.
Yeah. But it is true. So.
We also have some friends sharing an hour, and that works out well. We have a substitute system, so you don't be anxious or afraid that if you can't make that hour, you're going to the cabin. We have many substitutes. It's very easy to find someone to fill that hour, and we help you with that. So we want everyone to have the perfect hour in their schedule, and we'll help you be flexible too. Sometimes life changes, so your hours change. We have a lot of flexibility, and it's been such a blessing. We have adorers come back and say, this is, this is what this has done in my life. So this is what this has done in my family's life. This is what I see. They see the fruits, and it's been really inspiring to hear those testimonies. Yeah.
And I wouldn't be afraid of it. I would say that if you pick an hour, don't be afraid, because you think about praying the rosary or like Monsignor mentioned, just reading scripture and that as well. And then just sitting there and kind of relaxing and bringing your life a calmness to your life and that. So it's not anything to be afraid of.
Takes the fear and the anxiety away right now when we hear so much uncertainty and so many things.
And I think that's what we need, is trust and confidence, and who better than the Lord to just tell us, I'm always with you, and never leave you alone. And He's there for you if we just put our hearts there, and then we'll have less stress or whatever anxiety when we see things that we don't think, how can I ever handle it? But somehow God works it out.
He gives us the grace.
Yeah.
Any final words before we wrap up here? Anything?
I guess I would just like to challenge everyone, if you don't already have an hour, to actually take an hour. And it is a commitment, but again, it's nothing to be afraid of. But what's nice about a commitment is it sets that time where once a week, no matter what, you're going to the chapel and you're going to pray. And you think about all the other commitments, so it's kind of forcing you to do something, but yet it's something that'll bring peace and calmness to your life as well. And it's a good way of forming a good habit, of helping increase your prayer life and that as well. So.
Final word there, Anna Marie.
I'm here to help you find the perfect hour, and I know that you won't ever regret it. Many saints said we all need a half-hour prayer a day, and if you're busy, you need an hour. So it's just an added bonus. It's a gift. It's the greatest gift we have. Our parish shows the worth, the devotion that we have for our Lord in the Eucharist. It's been just a beautiful blessing for our parish, and I'm really grateful to be involved in the blessing.
And I think, and especially in these days when we have to be praying hard, that there's civil unrest and all of these things, somehow there'll be peace that comes in. Who better than the Prince of Peace to tell us how to do it? So I think we bring those prayers and our needs to the Lord in this way. He said that that was it. He came that they all may be one, as you, Father, and me, and I, and you. So it's trying to get the whole world together in that. And it was funny, we talked about, when was it? You started in the 1980s, I think you were saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think it was around 1985 or something like that. There was a song that was popular getting the word, because every age has a little bit of turbulence. And they sang this thing, we are the world, we are the people, and that was it. And I think, Father, could we make that our closing prayer?
Sure.
Are you going to sing it?
No.
And our Lord asked, he said, could you not spend 1 hour with me? He requested it, he asked it, so we'll keep that in mind too.
Good.
Okay.
There is a time when we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one.
Lord.
There are people lying. Oh, it's time to lend a hand tonight. The greatest gift of all. We can go on pretending day by day that somehow Some words soon make a change. We are a part of God's great big family. And the truth is, you know, love is all we need.
Get the words down.
Sometimes we make it, we fade it out.